Hello viewers, welcome to Tech. In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with n8n. We are going to work with HTTP requests, form submission, and many other nodes and triggers and actions that are available in n8n. In the previous video, I showed you how to install n8n. If you want to watch the video on how to install n8n, you are going to see the link in the description of this video so that you can watch it and set it up in your system. Right now, I have already set it to run locally in my system because I do not have access to internet right now. So it is running locally in my system so that we can use it to learn, and I can also use it to demonstrate the features that I want to show you. This is the interface, guys. Okay, I've already introduced the interface in the previous video, so we will just go straight into creating a new workflow. To create a new workflow, just click on create workflow. This is how the workflow interface look like. You can rename your workflow, guys. So I'm going to rename it by selecting this and rename it to, I name it n8n tutorial. So you can name your workflow anything. The workflow start with a trigger. From here, you can see this plot that say add a trigger node before executing the workflow. So the first thing you add into the workflow is the trigger node. To access the trigger node, you can click on this plus, or you can also click on this plus here. So let me just click this plus. You can see it is now showing what triggered this workflow. You can see a trigger is a step that starts your workflow. Anything that starts your workflow is a trigger. You can do manual trigger. So if you click manual trigger, it is going to trigger manually. That means you have to manually trigger the workflow. Then we also have the one that say on app event. This one runs the flow when something happens in an app like Telegram, Notion, Airtable, WhatsApp, Facebook, and many others. Then we also have on schedule. On schedule run the flow every day, hour, or custom interval. Okay, this one enables you to perform the workflow based on time interval. It is just like a cron, a cron job. Then we also have on webhook call. This one run the flow on receiving an HTTP request. We have on form submission. On form submission, generate web form in n8n and pass their responses to the workflow. You also have when executed by another workflow. This one run the flow when called by the execute workflow node from a different workflow. We also have on chat message. This one is mostly popular when you are using AI. It will run the flow when a user sends a chat message, for example, using AI node. So since I don't have internet access, I may not work on this one. So I will just work on those ones that work offline, guys. So let's start with manual trigger. So let me click on manual trigger. It has been added. Here now you need to set what happens when you manually trigger the workflow. What should happen? So let me just click on this plus and you can see what happened next. You can do AI chat, you can do action in app, do something in app or service like Google, data transform, flow, run code, make HTTP request and set webhooks, etc. Let me select this call. Let me select HTTP request. Okay, let me do HTTP request. Click on it. You can see you can make a HTTP request using the HTTP request node. You can make a HTTP request to an endpoint, and this is where you need to enter the URL where you want to make the request to. I've already set a local server, guys, so let me quickly show you the local server that I set up. This is the local server I set up, guys. You can see server running on localhost port 3600, and I have connected to MongoDB locally. I have connected to MongoDB locally. So let me minimize it and show you the MongoDB compass. Okay, this is MongoDB compass. So it is running locally in my system. We are going to be getting this data from the MongoDB, but we are going to be making use of HTTP request method. So let me just minimize this. I'm going to paste the URL. So this is the URL of our API. If I make a GET request to this URL, we are going to get the post. Remember, we have the post in our database, which is MongoDB. When we make a GET request to this endpoint, we are going to get all the posts. Let me close this node. You can see I have this node like this, but now it is saying when click execute workflow. I need to click on this execute workflow in order to trigger this HTTP request, which is exactly execute workflow by clicking is doing. Okay, let me click on it now. Do you see workflow executed successfully? And let me go back. Let me open this HTTP request. Do you see I have the post? And this post is coming from the database. You can see it here. For me to execute this HTTP request, I need to click execute workflow. That is what it means by manual trigger. Let's see other triggers we have. If you want to delete something, you can just click on it and select delete. So let me delete this one. Now you can also double click on the HTTP request, open it like this and click execute step. You are actually doing it manually as well. Okay, so you can see we have the post. Let's see how to add a post using web form. Let me click outside and click on this plus. Now I'm going to select on form submission. So this one is going to trigger when you submit a form. So I'm going to click on form submission. On form submission enables you to create a web form, and it also gives you the form URL. So this is the form test URL. We also have the production URL. You can also do authentication as well. The form we are going to create, you can give it a title. I'm going to name it blog post. You can also add the description. Let me add the description. So this is the description of our form. Add blog post. Now you need to create a form just like the way you create a form using HTML. You can now create form element. Let me click add form element. You can see you can add a label. The first one is going to be title. Then the element type is going to be a text input. So let me add attribute. So if you want to add attribute, you click add attribute like require feed. So let me click on require feed. Let me add another attribute. This one is placeholder. This is the placeholder of the text input, which is going to be add title. This is the placeholder. Now let me add another form element. I click add form element. This one is going to be body. Then the type is text input. You can also change it to different format here. So, but I'm going to select text input. Let's add attribute of required. Check it. Add another attribute of placeholder. Add your post body is the placeholder. Let me add another form element. The label is going to be author. Let's change it to drop down so that we can hard code our authors. Okay, I'm going to add an author, John Doe. Add another field option. Let me add another field option to add more option. This one is going to be Jane Doe. Add another option. Let's say John Smith. Then add another option and say Jane Smith. So we added 4 options so that a user can select between the authors. You can also add attribute. So if I click attribute and select required, so I select it, make it required. You can also add a default value. If you click add attribute and select default value, from here you can now add a default value. You can see this page that says default value. If I type Jane Doe, so you can see Jane Doe is the second option here, but if you want it to be the default, you type it as Jane Doe like this. So by default it is going to select Jane Doe. If you want to see this form, guys, you need to click execute step. Let me click on execute step so that you can see this form. You can see it is generating the form. So you can see the form, guys. You can see the title and the description. The author Jane Doe is selected by default. So let me add the title, post 1. Then the body is going to be, this is the body of post 1. Then the author is going to be Jendo. You can see Jendo has been selected by default because we set it to be the default value. So if you click here, you can select different option. If you want it to be John Doe, you can select it. So let me select Jendo. Let me click on submit. You can see form submitted, so your response has been recorded. If you go to the form submission workflow, you can see the data we submitted from the form. You see the title, the body, the author, submitted art was added automatically, and we also have the form mode to be test. Okay, and you can see we submitted this data from the form. Let me close this node. So I'm going to link on form submission to the HTTP request now. So I'm just going to link it like this. So when I submit this form, I'm going to get the data from the form and make a HTTP post request to our endpoint and post the data. I'm going to select HTTP request, double click on it. Now you can see the data we submitted from the form is already showing here. You can see it is in a table form. Let me change it to JSON. This is the data. It is in JSON format now. Let's do a HTTP post request to post this data to our database. Checking our database, we have only one post now. Okay, we only have one post. Let's add a post using the form. Let me minimize this. I'm going to change the method to post. So I select post. That means I want to make a post request. It is going to be the same endpoint. There is no authentication and there is no query. What we are going to do, you select this one that says send body, because we are going to send the body in form of JSON format. Okay, I'm going to select send body and select JSON. So I'm going to select JSON here. You can also select from different formats. We have form URL encoded, form data, JSON, n8n binary file, and raw. So I'm going to select JSON. Here that specify body, you click on it and select using JSON. You can also select using feed below. If you want to use feed below, that means you are going to be adding the name and the value. But since we already have a JSON format, what I'm going to do is to select using JSON. Here, you need to add the data you want to submit. So I'm going to select expression. So I'm going to type curly bracket like this. So this means that I am entering a JSON data. So the JSON format is like this. You type the title. So all this feed like this is what I want to add. So the title, separate it with comma, enter the body and separate it with comma. Let me add the author. These are the three things we are sending, guys: title, body, and the author. The date will be automatically set by our database. I will not be sending the date. I'm going to map this title so that the value will now show inside this quote. Okay, so I'm going to drag the title head here. Just grab it like this and move it here like this. What is inside these two curly brackets is known as JavaScript. This is how n8n represent JavaScript. Now you can see anything inside curly bracket, this double curly bracket, is JavaScript. So I'm going to select the body, just drag it and map it like this, and select the author and map it here. This is the structure of the data we are sending to our server. If I want to submit this data that I already have here, I will need to click execute workflow. I'm making a HTTP post request to this endpoint to post the data. I'm going to click execute step now so that we can see the result. I'm going to click execute step. You can see node executed successfully and it returned the post that was added. You can see the title, the body, and the author. And now if I open my database, let me open the database. I have one post now. Let me refresh. You can see a new post has been added in the database. You can see Jendo post 1, this body of post 1 has been added using the HTTP post method. So let me now click close. If you want to execute this workflow, okay, what you need to do, you select none of this. Let me click execute workflow now. So the form will open. Let me add the title of the post, n8n post. Then the body, this is a post from n8n. Then the author, let me select James Smith as the author. Click submit. You can see workflow executed successfully, and this data will be submitted to our database now. So let me go to the database. Let me open it and refresh. Do you see we have this post? James Smith is the author, title n8n post, and the body is, this is a post from n8n. So you can see on form submission, we are making a HTTP request and we are sending the data from the form to the server using the HTTP request. If I want to get the post, I can make another HTTP request, guys, by adding another HTTP request. Let me click here, search for HTTP request once again. It's going to be a get request. This is the URL to get all the posts. Let me make a get request to this URL. It is going to get all the posts. Click send. You can see it return all the posts. Return all the posts. If I want to get a single post, I can get the ID. So let me just copy this ID. I'm going to paste it here. That is /ID. So if I do /ID here, it is going to get a single post with this ID. Let me make a get request again. This time around, it return a single post that have that particular ID. So you can see, you can make use of HTTP requests to post data and also get data from the server. Let's see what we can add again, guys. Let me show you how to use the flow. If you click here and select flow, okay, this one, you can see branch, merge, loop, the flow. So let me click on this one. So let's start with the filter. Click on filter. We're going to filter based on condition. You can see I'm going to select the filter by author. So I'm going to select one of these author like this. If the author is equals to, let's say, John Doe, it is going to filter this data, guys. It is going to return the post that the author is John Doe. So let me click execute. You can see no output data in the branch. This is because there is no author that has John Doe. So you can see the author of this post is Jane Doe. This one is Jane Smith. So let me change it to Jane Doe. Let me execute now. You can see it return a single post. The author of this post is Jane Doe. If I change it to Jane Smith, let's say Jane Smith. So I change it to Jane Smith. If the author is Jane Smith, it's going to return the post. Let me click execute. This time around, it return two posts. You can see the author is Jane Smith. This one, the author is Jane Smith. And you can also see discarded. So this one is the discarded one. That is the one that doesn't meet the requirement. Is discarded. This one here, you can see the discarded one is Jane Doe, but the kept one is Jane Smith. If I go back now, let's execute this workflow. I'm going to execute from beginning. So I click execute. The form is opening. I'm going to add a new post, test post. The body is going to be, this is a test post. The author now is going to be John Doe. Click submit. Let me open the database, refresh. You can see we have another post added. If I go to the filter now, if I change it to John Doe now, so if I change it to John Doe and execute it, it will return one post, which is John Doe. Test post, this is test post. So that is for the filter. So you can see from the HTTP request, we are having 4 posts, but we have already filtered it to have 1. So let me disconnect this. Then let me use another flow. Let me go back and search for branch and select if. Okay, let me connect it like this. Open it. I have all the posts. So let me filter by title this time around. I'm going to select the title. Here you can see exist, does not exist, is empty. You can use different form to filter. For here is equal to. You explicitly check in the value 1 to check if it is the same thing as value 2. But this time around, I'm going to select contain. Let me select contain. This time around, we're checking if the title contain n8n. We're going to get all the posts where the title contain n8n. Then let me execute now. Okay, this time around I have 2 posts. Under the true value, we have 2 posts. Under the false value, we also have 2 posts. Okay, under the true value, which means that the title contain n8n, you can see the title, this title contain n8n, and this title also contain n8n. Okay, so we are now filtering based on the title whether it contain n8n. The first value will return the one that does not contain n8n. All right, so that is how to use the if flow. Okay, you can take another action depending on whether it is true or false. All right, I hope with these examples and illustration, guys, you can be able to use the basic form submission, HTTP request, and the flow node in n8n. If you find this video useful, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your loved ones. Thank you for watching.